Charlie Kirk, he fucked around, found out. Charlie Kirk, he fucked around, he fucked around, he fucked around. Charlie Kirk, he fucked around, found out. Charlie Kirk was a professional right-wing extremist rabble-rouser. Charlie Kirk was 31, been in politics for over a decade. Charlie Kirk publicly posted that the United States Second Amendment to the Constitution, awarding the citizenry the right to bear arms, was such a vital component of the American sociological, traditional, historical, cultural personality, national gestalt, that a certain background level of gun deaths annually was merely the price to pay for such freedom to bear arms. It's what he made his living propounding as a philosophy. A foolosophy, apparentarily, because Charlie Kirk, thereby, thus and because, sanctioned his own assassination. And who done it? That's the next question. Who done it? Ever since Donald Trump was inaugurated as the 47th President of the United States, leaders and spokespeople on the left-wing side of politics, from the Democrats and the Independents, have been urging their supporters to do nothing to provoke any kind of an authoritarian response. Do not rise to the bait, is what they've been telling their supporters. So, me personally, I would say that it's not any organised bunch of Democrats. It's not any organised bunch of Democrat supporters, because the constitutional loyalists who are outraged at Trumpian MAGA behaviour are trying to do everything they can to forestall the day when the right-wing authoritarian wannabe fascists from MAGA land have some kind of a excuse to wheel out the military against all political dissidents. I don't see the independents being any different. I'd say there's probably a 5 or 10% chance that it's some vigilante. However, there's at least a 50% chance that this is mere wrestling for position, jockeying for power among upcoming wannabe MAGA leaders who are trying to get themselves ready and prepared for the day Trump is no longer the 47th POTUS, because he either dies, retires, or becomes incapacitated in the job with the advancing dementia that he's obviously displaying. There have been a bunch of people suggesting that JD Vance is about as popular as dog shit between the toes when you're walking on the beach barefoot. He may be the vice president, but he's got bugger all support within the community. But because he's the vice president, he will inherit the job. But there are other people who apparently feel themselves better qualified to inherit the mantle of MAGA. Could be a dynasty thing, you know, like maybe one of Donald's children want to advance out of the way. Certainly, from the very moment Trump announced the event, what has poured forth from the right-wing extremist side of politics is a fetid, foaming, fervent, festering, overwhelming wave demanding a repeat of what happened in Germany in the Reichstag fire, when the dictator who had been marginally elected and appointed to power passed an enabling act dissolving everything else in the Constitution other than the Führerprinzip. And if you think I'm making this up, come with me. As an Italian by the name of Machiavelli was once made more or less famous for suggesting, when confronted with a sudden, surprising, remarkable development and wondering who might be responsible, ask yourself who benefits. Who benefits? When wondering who might have brought this about. Who benefits, Felicity? Because it surely is not going to be the Democrats. Check this out.
Now, folks, without knowing who did this, what the motives were, without getting more detail at all, you have Donald Trump and MAGA really politicizing this and turning it into some very hateful rhetoric. Donald Trump gave a speech from the Oval Office and immediately blamed leftists, and he said the left are a bunch of terrorists, and he's inciting his base right here, in my opinion, to commit violence against Democrats. He also references the assassination attempt on him in Butler, where we know that individual was a Republican and a Trump supporter, and the same thing, they flooded the zone with all of this information. Oh, it must be a liberal, it must be a leftist, it must be liberal. It was a very, very lifelong Republican. That's who it was, who was in a big Trump house. But this is the dangerous rhetoric he's saying. Let's play it.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
And that dangerous rhetoric is permeating all over right-wing social media now. You have Laura Loomer, a right-wing extremist, saying they sent a trained sniper to assassinate Charlie Kirk while he was sitting next to a table of hats that said 47. You could be next. I hate to say it, but I have a sick feeling we will be seeing more targeted assassination. The left are terrorists. This guy Harrison Smith, right-wing media influencer, says, round them the F up. This other popular X account, which used to be Twitter, says, there's no going back after this. There's no more words to be said. The only way this ends is complete annihilation of the Democrat Party.
Gents, listen up.
He says, Charlie Kirk being assassinated is the American Reichstag fire. It is time for a complete crackdown on the left. Every Democratic politician must be arrested and the party banned under RICO. Every libtard commentator must be shut down. Stochastic terrorism, they caused this. And then more comments like this. They've declared war. I want to see the Air Force sent to Democratic cities. You get the point. I mean, one horrible thing. This is war. One horrible thing after the other. Look, the first thing that we said here on the Midas Touch Network, not knowing the facts about what took place, is that in the strongest possible terms, we condemn political violence.
So you see what I mean? Just as I said, up there under the wattle tree. They who are wrestling for position when Donald Trump passes from the scene, they're all using this event as a trigger, as an excuse, as an instigation to respond to their failing position in the polls, their failing position in the domestic economy, their failing position in the international economy, their failing position in terms of international standing as a nation, as a government, to respond to all of that failure with a massive crackdown on anybody who disagrees. They desperately want it to be somebody on the left. Donald Trump said they were going to get out there and catch the person who did it, and everybody else who ever had anything to do with the idea of being against him. Kash Patel has already twice announced that they've caught the perpetrator and got him in custody, and then had to come up with a follow-up saying, well, actually, no, we had to release that first bloke we arrested because he was, he was at the rally, and he has a long-standing history of going to right-wing events so that he can heckle because he's obviously on the wrong side of the Trump administration. He didn't have any weapon or anything, he was just there. He wasn't in any sort of a position to have done anything, and he wasn't seen to have done anything, but he was there. So they jumped on him and grabbed him and took him away and questioned him, and then come to the conclusion that, well, we can't really hold him for anything. Then there was another person who was in a car somewhere nearby, and they had a compressed air powered pellet rifle, for target shooting at a distance of maybe 10 metres. On the dashboard of their vehicle, it's a long arm, open carry, America, Utah, Second Amendment. So he was stopped and searched and arrested, and once again Kash Patel come up, oh yeah, we've got the bloke. Oh, well, actually, no, we haven't. So twice they've grabbed the wrong person for being in close proximity. Whoever actually did it was 200 metres away, on top of a building. Whoever it was captured on video by people who were standing on the ground saying, oh, look at that, who's that person up there lying down in black clothes? And somebody else after the shooting also captured somebody in the black clothes standing up and running away. How many military and paramilitary official government organisations and quangos, quasi-non-government organisations, in the US maintain a force of black-clad snipers? I think there's about 57,000 different local police organisations. Most of them have one trained sniper. There's the county police, there's the state police, there's the Federal Bureau of Investigations, there's Homeland Insecurity, Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms, NSA, no such agency, National Security Agency, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, CIA. How many outfits in America maintain ready to go trained snipers who can shoot somebody in the throat from 200 yards away, from a rooftop, ingress, lay down, pop, bang, egress, off they go? How many? How many of those organisations are in the control sway of the Democrats? How many of those organisations, after Doge and 8 or 10 months worth of a purge, how many of those organisations have seen everybody who was experienced, qualified, trained, loyal to the department, fully understood their job, committed to defending and upholding the Constitution of the United States and the flag that it's represented by, how many of them have died, or they were going to retire anyway, taken early retirement, been retrenched or fired? How many? How many of those once reliable, stalwart US government civil administrations are currently running on momentum versus inertia and conservation of angular momentum as the juggernaut thunders across the landscape, basically unguided, shedding broken and failed components, being held together by emergency band-aid repairs conducted by apprentices promoted several administrative levels far and away beyond their actual skill level. How many FBI agents were fired? Was it 5,000 or 10,000? All the inspectors general were fired. There's nobody to make sure that the American government is honest or competent or benevolent. They're all gone. On the proverbial bright side, and there is always a bright side, behind every cloud there is a silver lining. On the bright side, there is the fact that anybody who expects Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and the sort of feckless, half-witted clowns who are committed to displaying their political loyalty, screaming, "Sir, yes, sir," how high as their feet leave the floor when they're commanded to jump. Who has any confidence in that brigade of Keystone cops being able to actually detect and locate and apprehend anybody who pulled that off? They have no fucking clue. Whether it was Donald John Trump or Eric Trump or Ivanka Trump or somebody else who wants to take over the MAGA mantle. How many of them are there? Bannon? Jones? Navarro? What about that bloody little golem, the Goebbels channeler, Stephen Miller? Somewhere behind this, there's someone who knew what they were doing. The one young populist who raised all young bro culture into voting for Trump, who mobilised the pale, stale, male, fat, flabby, white wannabes, the incels. Charlie Kirk was the bloke who pulled all them out of their basements and off their keyboards and got them to go and vote. When he was shot, he was in the middle of stirring up the crowd. Somebody asked him how many mass shootings were conducted by transgendered people. And Charlie Kirk said, too many. It's actually a vanishingly small number. Most of your mass shootings are carried out by the aforementioned pale, stale, male, flabby, white, no-hopers. He talked shit and he was shot in the throat. That was a very short, sharp, intense karmic feedback cycle operating within the cosmic scoreboard effect, was it not? Blah, 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 bang. I've been known to tell a lot of bullshit in my day. Back when I was young, before I was 21. Spool it on forward. When I was 61, I got cancer of the throat because I used to talk a lot of shit. The law courts are like the mills of God. They may grind slowly. They may grind exceeding slow, but be assured they also grind exceeding fine, I think was the Shakespearean quote. So eventually it will emerge as to who it was who shot Charlie Kirk, but at the moment, Charlie Kirk, he fucked around, found out. Charlie Kirk, he fucked around and fucked around. Charlie Kirk, he fucked around, found out karma is not just a bullshit idea. If you're raised by idiots, it's not your fault you emerge from the pipeline of teenagehood with a head full of shit. As you try to perpetrate that shit upon the earth, you are supposed to notice that you're hurting other people and mend your wicked ways. within those parameters, you can go a long way. If you're sufficiently privileged and sufficiently single-minded and sufficiently selfish and sufficiently obsessive, you can apply yourself to continuing your selfishness and to use tactics that you know are objectively not good for society, but you can convince yourself that it's good for you if you can get away with it. Eventually that all catches up with you. Charlie Kirk fucked around professionally and he found out. Karma caught up with him and I had nothing to fucking do with it. I barely knew who he was. I'd seen him cross my feed, mentioned as a lunatic babbling for the right wing. He's left a widow and a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. Because he thought his God theory was on his side. He didn't think he needed to abide by any of the actual tenets, the 10, 12 or 15 commandments that you'll find in all the best, most respectable religious theories. No. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk said whatever he thought he could get away with within the limits of that particular interaction. Like J.D. Vance, when asked, was not the missile attack on a boatload of civilians in international waters off Venezuela a war crime, he said, I don't give a shit what you call it. How do you know the man in black who shot Charlie Kirk wasn't just making way that Charlie Kirk could not form an obstruction to the onward and upward path of J.D. Vance? How do you know that? Interesting question, is it not? How fucking arrogant do you have to be to think your own idea of a universal creator God theory is so fucking infantile that you can utterly contradict the rules that are on the fucking tin when you open your lifetime trip ticket in the living quarters of planet Earth? How arrogant do you have to be to think you can pull the wool over the eyes of your own God theory? Because got me tons. Whatever you do is going to be ticked off on in heaven in advance, because got me tons. This is the affliction which bedevils everybody who believes that got me tons. I don't think my idea of a universal creator God theory is on my side. I do believe that the option is available for me to choose to try not to go against all of the teachings of the universal creator God theory that I can imagine being complicated and integrated sufficiently to be able to actually manage all the variables within the universe. I figure any God theory able to deal with all of that, I don't want to try and fucking lie to them. Don't care whether you call it thou shalt not kill or thou shalt not murder. I wouldn't like to be in the shoes of the person who squeezed the trigger on Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was a loudmouth professional dickhead. That doesn't excuse killing him. There is nothing that anybody says, there's no noise you can make with your mouth that entitles anybody else to harm you in any way. If throwing yourself on a hand grenade that lobs into a foxhole of you and your friends to absorb the blast and the fragments and the shrapnel so that all of your friends can stay alive and you'll contain the damage, if that's the most selfless thing that you can do, or anyone can do, then surely the idea of killing somebody else because you're so fucking frightened of what they might do to you, that would have to be the most selfish thing you can do. Kill a stranger or a friend because you're afraid of what they might do to you, what they might be capable of. Oh, they got a gun, they might shoot me, I better bang, got him. In the excited status of Norte armed Americano, things have now reached the pass where I saw a Bruce Rivers Reacts video the other day. Bunch of 11-year-olds were playing a game they called Ding Dong Dell. They run up and ring the doorbell and kick the door and run away. 50-something-year-old no-neck half-wit who lives inside come out and shot them in the back as they were running away. Bang, bang, bang. Or maybe I got that one wrong. Maybe it was a different 50-something-year-old who run over 3 of them and wiped them out. I think the bloke who come out shooting, he only killed 1. The people who've been educated and trained for generations to believe that they are entitled to carry a death machine within reach so they can pet it and patch it and touch it and fondle it anytime they become fearful of whatever they might imagine that they believe their God theory is incapable of dealing with. That's why they need a fucking death machine. If their God theory was worth 2 knobs of goat shit to the compost heap, they wouldn't need a gun. Because their God theory would deal with it. They could go along. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of the death, I fear no evil. Not because I carry a bigger stick than any other arsehole, but because I trust my universal creator God theory to be competent, benevolent, reasonable, as well as omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and with a fairly savage sense of humour. The bloke who said that he's so committed to the Second Amendment and the freedom to bear arms that he thinks a certain level of background annual gun deaths is just the price you got to pay for being able to go into a pawn shop and buy a gun. He's the bloke who got shot down in front of a crowd of his supporters by a person in a black zoot suit 200 yards away that nobody knew was there. The people who did know he was there got a video of him, but not while he was doing the shooting. Oh, we'll take a video of that. I wonder if the police should know about that. Doop-de-doop-de-doo. Charlie Kirk, he fucked around, found out. Charlie Kirk, he fucked around and fucked around. Charlie Kirk, he fucked around, found out. Warbles on a lot of YouTube. Ciao.